Okay, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of No Blurred Lines, a series where I talk about rape culture in television. If you're new to the channel, you should click here. Oh god, that's not a box. Oh, you know what would be better? Click here. Guess you didn't do this in the other episode. Click there though. That's what I'll do. And that will take you back to the first episode where I talk more about what rape culture is, and it will give you a better base knowledge for what I'm about to say. This episode, we're going to be going deep into my emotional psyche and talking about a childhood favorite of mine, Gilmore Girls. If you've ever spent any amount of time with me, I've probably talked about Gilmore Girls for 80% of it. Literally nothing else has ever mattered to me in quite the same way. I went through a distinctly long period of time where I was convinced that I would never love anyone the way that I love Jess and Mariano. And I can't say that that's been entirely disproven. That's just that. If you've never seen Gilmore Girls, we clearly will not click. The rough plot is this. Lorelai Gilmore is a successful, witty single mom with a teenage daughter that she's been raising on her own in a quirky Connecticut town. After having Rory at 16, Lorelai's whole life became about giving Rory a different upbringing than her own. But when Rory gets into an expensive private high school, Lorelai goes back to her parents to ask for a loan to pay for it, which the elder Gilmores eagerly agree, under the condition that Rory and Lorelai will attend weekly Friday night dinners for the duration of the loan. It's really about motherhood, friendship, love, and life. It's about being successful, about trying hard, loving your family. For the viewers to learn the hard way that you can't eat like a Gilmore Girl, even if you can talk as fast as one. On the surface level, there's nothing I dislike about Gilmore Girls. Girl power, pop culture, pizza rolls, it's Emma in a neat little shell. It's often even hailed as like a feminist show, which I can see, created by a female leading cast, lots of female extras about females. The content is never as openly misogynistic as other shows in that genre, like The OC and Gossip Girl. But that doesn't make this show perfect, and it doesn't really make it feminist. The show has an incredible lack of diversity, first of all, and if you're not including diversity in your feminism, then it's not feminism, and that's an entirely other video, so I won't go into it. But you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and link you into something, so check the description below, because I just can't not, right? Anyway, moving on. Even in its revival earlier in November 2016, there was so little diversity, and it's like, you can't even blame it on the early 2000s anymore, which is what I like to do to all of Gilmore Girls' flaws up until the revival came out, and I had to look at the flaws dead in the eye and be like, oh, you're just a flaw. You're not an element of your time. And while the show doesn't explicitly deal with rape or sexual assault really at all, it doesn't excuse it from rape culture. Rape culture is a society that normalizes and trivializes rape and assault. If you watched the first video, or any of my videos, you've heard a little bit about this, but it's one of the most prevalent subcultures in America because of the way that it's internalized in all of us, and it's something that we can't escape from, even if we know about it. Sadly, Gilmore Girls exemplifies a very particular part of rape culture that's really hard to eradicate. While people are becoming increasingly aware of the effects of having actual assault and rape portrayed in shows, there are the more subtle aspects of rape culture. We're still painfully lax about the common vernacular and the attitudes of the characters in our shows. Lorelai and Rory are both complex, layered, great characters who proudly say that they are for girl power, but they're both guilty of having really terrible attitudes towards other women. This show slut shames constantly. Slut shaming is an aspect of rape culture that's really hard to pinpoint because it's basically what everyone thinks. It's so ingrained and internalized in the way that we view other girls or women that you can't pinpoint why you think that, so you just assume that it's true when it's not. Slut shaming is when someone is judged or, shamed for being promiscuous, for having a lot of sexual relationships, or seeming like they might have a lot of sexual relationships with someone. And despite my best efforts to watch this show and report that it was perfect, Gilmore Girls slut shame so much. Take, for example, season 3, episode 16, the big one. This is the one where Rory's rival, I guess is what you call it, her high school rival, finds out that she didn't get into her top choice school, Harvard, and has sex for the first time with her long-term boyfriend. Paris becomes convinced that the reason she didn't get into Harvard is because Harvard knew she had sex and that she was being punished. This obviously shows that Paris has a great deal of personal shame related to sex. No one openly calls her a slut, but there's plenty of things that the people in the show say that are very derivative of the fact that they are judging Paris for having sex. Such as the fact when Lorelai finds out that Rory hasn't had sex and she, in a sing-song voice, says, "I got the good kid." As if Paris having sex makes her a bad kid. Rory not having sex makes her a good kid, which, you know, I've seen the show and Rory has some personality traits that I personally think make her not the good kid. Whatever. There's like an incredible amount of judgment by the adult on Paris for having sex. She has a breakdown on national television at a Chilton event, and instead of being concerned for her mental health and why she thinks these things and helping her develop a healthy relationship with sex, they just kind of side-eye her. No one attempts to talk to Paris about why she has such an intense and visceral reaction and shame over her sexual activity. We can also look a few episodes later in season 3, episode 19, Keg Max. This is the episode where Rory goes to a house party that her best friend Lane is playing at, and she takes her boyfriend Jess. Before she goes, she's talking about how she doesn't know if she wants to bring a bag or not, and Lorelai takes her key and ties it around her belt loop, and she says, "Great, now the only way for you to lose your key is if you take off your belt, and if you take off your belt, I'm not sure I want you to come home anyway." This is such slut-shaming that it's Lorelai literally telling her teenage daughter that she had when she was a teenager that any sexual act that would require her to remove her clothing is such a bad and shameful event that she might as well not come home afterwards. These are two very obvious examples of slut-shaming, both shown mostly by Lorelai. Lorelai is arguably, you know, the heroine of the show, and she's the biggest influencer on the moral good of the show, which is Rory. So she's raising Rory to have this demonized visualization of her sexual awakening. Despite, or perhaps because of having her daughter at such a young age, Lorelai views sex for her daughter as something damning, disgusting, and morally wrong, while she views sex for herself as completely natural and okay. This makes sense at a certain level because Rory is young when the show starts. It doesn't really lessen as Rory ages. Punishment for sex is shown in a third way with Rory's best friend Lane. Her first time is so bad that she comes back from her honeymoon and tells Rory, "The jig's up. You don't have to lie to me anymore. I get it." And then she gets pregnant with twins, where no other part of the show that indicates that Lane even wanted to have children. And in fact, becoming pregnant forces her to give up on her dream of rock and roll. Slut-shaming manifests itself in the show in other ways as well. The show shows any girl that has a sense of ownership over her sexuality as a vapid bimbo, and it's regulated throughout the whole show so that you look at the main characters and they barely stop short of saying, "I'm not like other girls," as if being other girls is bad, and as if having any sort of ownership of your sexuality is like a dumb thing. This is shown when Rory's in high school through Louise and Madeline, who are Paris's other best friends, but they're constantly being shown as these dumb, slutty bimbos, as if like those characteristics have to go together. It's also shown whenever Jess gets a different girlfriend called Shane, where all she does is make out and say stupid things. None of the characters are particularly misogynistic except for the fact that they have such internalized misogyny. As I said earlier, slut-shaming is an incredibly dangerous aspect of rape culture because it becomes ingrained in the way that we think. We do connect vapid interests like makeup or enjoying casual sex with being dumb or like not being a morally good person. And we think these things in part because when we are watching our favorite shows, we see it highlighted through character after character after character. And then it's reiterated through when we see a girl who looks like she's flirting with someone or like particularly well done and we think, "Oh, she must be such a slut." And then everyone around you also agrees because their favorite shows do it too. And their friends do it and their parents do it. And it's just this continual cycle of perpetuating this dangerous mindset. When we teach girls that it's wrong or dumb to have their sexuality, then they're forced to either embrace that stereotype and just let it be a part of them or to suppress it and therefore take out their anger at having to suppress it on other girls, therefore perpetuating it. It also perpetuates the idea that girls who are quote unquote slutty are asking for it when they are assaulted or harassed because they clearly like it and they clearly want the attention. This victim blaming is integral to the perpetuation of rape culture. It shifts the focus from the perpetrator to the victim. It shows that if you want to be the good kid, if you want to be like your favorite character, you have to know that sex is wrong and that you shouldn't do it. This idea that girls who flirt with people will sleep with anyone, or any of the connotations that come with slut shaming and thinking people are sluts, isn't just detrimental to your self-worth and your image of the world, but to your life at its core. You can just look at the Santa Barbara shooter, Elliot Rodger, who said that he wanted to slaughter every single spoiled, stuck-up blonde slut. Well, you might have thought that it was a reach to say that Gilmore Girls perpetuates rape culture through slut-shaming. It really isn't. When you learn from trusted, loved people, even fictional ones, that to be a slut is to be bitchy and promiscuous and a worthless idiot, you start to internalize it to the point where you believe it too. And we have to stop thinking that if a girl has certain characteristics, she's worthless. Because not only is it not true, it's running society. If we're able to debunk myths like these one at a time and teach everyone around us that it's okay to do what you want, it will be harder to blame the wrong person. And therefore, it will be harder for people to get away unpunished. And that's a good thing. Rapists should be punished. And those are some of my thoughts on Gilmore Girls. Obviously, I have a lot more. I think I could talk about Gilmore Girls indefinitely. I just stopped myself a lot. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on Gilmore Girls, but I don't know how you would want to, check below into the description. I'm going to link you to the blog post I wrote about this. It has a little bit of a more theoretical foundation and me ranting about how the way Lorelai treated Rory in her teenage years turned Rory into a bad person. Unpopular opinion? Maybe. Let me know. Read it and find out if you agree or not. I think a lot about Gilmore Girls. I just really care about it, in a really fundamental, emotional, biological way. In every way. Theoretical, theological. I love Gilmore Girls. No shame. Also, make sure to check out the other videos in the playlist if you'd like. They will be there indefinitely because of the internet. So take your time or binge them if you're really wanting to lower the mood of whatever room you're in. Like, subscribe, bell me, do whatever you want. I'll be back soon with another show, another aspect of rape culture. I hope that you will too. Ding. I'd add a ding sound effect, but I'm not that good at editing.